folks, to the second edition of hashtag Ask GSM, a weekly Monday mailbag video. I apologize for not putting up a video last week. My computer was getting fixed, so I was unable to film the video. However, I did write an article with all of your questions via Facebook and via Twitter, in an article form on my website, nexterrawrestling.weebly.com, under the Columnist Corner tab. So if you want to go check out those questions, a lot of great questions from last week, on my website under the Columnist Corner tab. And again, these are people that sent in questions to me on my Facebook page, Graham GSM Matthews, as well as on Twitter via @SamWordsForest_GSM last Tuesday. So make sure if you want to get your question in one of these videos answered by yours truly, make sure to send it in as quickly as possible. I can only do so many in one video and or article. But nonetheless, here are the questions for July 22nd, 2013. First question comes from James F. from via Facebook. Do you think the beginning of the Ziggler-Langston feud spells the end of Dolph's involvement in the world title picture? He also continues to ask, or could this feud help him get even more over and re-enter the title picture reinvigorated down the line? I see what you're saying here, and I definitely agree that it might be a step down for Dolph Ziggler at this point in time. Both Langston and Ziggler need high-profile victories at this point in their respective careers. Langston just got started. He just debuted back in December on the main roster. He hasn't had a full-fledged feud yet. In singles competition, he really isn't as over as he should be. So I don't think a victory over Langston for Ziggler means much to Ziggler. But I guess it makes sense from storyline standpoint that they need to break up Ziggler and Langston, as well as Ziggler and AJ, if they want to get Ziggler over as a top babyface on the SmackDown side of things. So from a storyline standpoint, it makes sense. The match itself could be good. But does it help Dolph Ziggler? Not really. If he beats Langston, so what? I mean, I guess so. Maybe you could do a mixed tag team match at SummerSlam. Maybe Ziggler and Layla, or Ziggler and Caitlyn, Ziggler and Paige. Maybe you bring her up. I doubt it. But Ziggler and Caitlyn makes the most sense given their history in NXT Season 3 as well. Versus the destructive duo of Big E Langston and AJ Lee. So I could definitely see this transcending to a feud down the line. For Dolph Ziggler, being entered back into the World Championship picture. I don't know how soon. Maybe at Survivor Series, maybe as soon as Night of Champions. What I don't want to see is Ziggler versus Del Rio versus Langston in a triple threat match of the world title. Langston should be nowhere near the World Championship at this point in time, so scratch that out of the book. I don't know who Del Rio will be facing at SummerSlam, but I sure as hell know it won't be Dolph Ziggler and or Langston. So have Ziggler win this feud, then go down the line, win back the World Championship later down the line, hopefully at Survivor Series, or maybe as soon as Night of Champions. CJB asked via Facebook, what is your opinion of Justin Gabriel? Do you think WWE would let him hold a mid-card title? I believe Justin Gabriel is capable of holding the Intercontinental or United States Championship. I don't know if his mic skills are really there yet, but from the promos that I've seen him cut on Main Event each week, he's like Mr. Main Event. He's featured in almost every single episode. His mic skills have improved in recent years, and he's great in the ring. The audiences love him. Not a fan of his new entrance music that he debuted last week on Main Event, or his new Angel Wings look. I thought that was a bit weird. But aside from that, I do think he has the potential to be a good mid-card champion. World champion, probably not. But a mid-card champion, most definitely. Maybe when Axel is done with the IC title, or maybe when Ambrose is done. That'd be a great way to put over Justin Gabriel by having Curtis Axel or Dean Ambrose drop their respective titles to Justin Gabriel down the line. I think Justin Gabriel is highly underutilized. He has a lot of potential, a lot of talent, so hopefully that can be utilized as soon as possible. Jared J asked via Facebook, who is one wrestler from before you started watching who you've become a fan of via via YouTube? Very good question. Not a lot of people. I became a lot of the fans of the wrestlers that I am of today from watching WWE and TNA respectively. One name that comes to mind, I think, is Rob Van Dam. Again, for those unaware, I started watching wrestling in April 2008. Rob Van Dam left WWE in 2007. I became a fan of RVD in early 2009. This was before he signed with TNA, about a year before. I became a fan of his from watching matches on YouTube of his one-night stand match with John Cena. I thought that was spectacular, and I was really, really happy he just recently came back to the WWE. So I think Rob Van Dam fits the bill for that question perfectly. Up next, Andre G asked from Facebook, what is your dream match for any pay-per-view? That's a bit of a vague question. There are numerous dream matches I would love to see. I think I answered this in one of my last videos, or one of my last mailbag question videos, articles, whatever. As far as a dream match between WWE and TNA, there's a lot of dream matches. in WWE versus TNA. But one match I would love to see in only WWE alone would have to be John Cena versus Undertaker. Of course, we saw that match 10 years ago. I believe it was at Vengeance 2003 when Cena was just getting started, when he's still doing the basic economics thing, when he's still heel, that kind of thing. But they have never faced off when Cena has had the popularity that he has since 2005. I think they faced off maybe once or twice, 06 or 07 or something along those lines. But at WrestleMania is where that match I want to see go down. WrestleMania 30 next year, I think it should be Cena versus Undertaker. I quit match because neither of them ever tapped, but that's kind of too gimmicky for me, so maybe just keep it standard. But Cena versus Undertaker is one dream match I would love to see go down. WWE versus TNA, there's Undertaker versus Sting, Angle Punk, D-Bry, Samoa Joe, Punk Aries. There's a lot of dream matches I would like to see between those two promotions as well. This name is a bit of a tongue twister, so I apologize for mispronouncing it. FX Chiralo, I'm sorry, I completely botched that. Asks from via Facebook, Tyson Kidd, question mark. Jack Swagger is given an awesome manager such as Zeb Coulter. Michael McGillicuddy is now Curtis Axel and Paul Heyman's client. Johnny Curtis is now Fandango and have beautiful Summer Rae as his valet. Skip Sheffield is now Ryback and got a monster push. When will Tyson Kidd be pushed? Others are moving fast. Well, I think one reason why Tyson Kidd obviously isn't being pushed right now is because he's injured. He's been injured since late December. I don't know the timetable for his return. It was supposed to be around August, around next month, but I recently read that it's been pushed back a few more months, which sucks. I hope he isn't put back in that same tag team with Justin Gabriel upon his return. That'd be great. I love them as a tag team, but I think he has major potential as a single star, as seen last year in the Money in the Bank SmackDown version. Ladder match at Money in the Bank last year, of course. So that's probably why he's not being pushed at the moment, is because he's not on television, because he's injured. But hopefully down the line, when he does make his return after being endorsed by CM Punk in his Pipe Bomb promo from this past January, I would hope that he's put in the mid-card title chase, hopefully against someone like Curtis Axel. I think that could be an excellent match. They had awesome matches down in NXT last year, so I think that would be one hell of a feud when Tyson Kidd comes back and takes the IC title off of Curtis Axel. Up next from the Twitter questions, at Kevin X. Steen asked, would you rather want to face Randy Savage or Razor Ramon in a real-life street fight? Of course, I wouldn't want to face either of them. They're both badasses. Razor Ramon is a bigger individual, so I guess the obvious answer would have to be Randy Savage. He's a tough SOB as well, but I think I'd rather face Randy Savage rather than Razor Ramon. But even still, I think facing either one of those guys would be absolutely awesome, even if I did get my ass kicked. Up next, at JJF tweets from Twitter. Imagine if ROH was around in the 1990s instead of ECW. Who would have fit the company's style? Well, first of all, this is one thing to think about too. I was thinking about this as you sent in this question. Great question, by the way. If ECW wasn't around in the 90s, does that mean that the Attitude Era would have never happened? Because remember, the whole Attitude Era was kind of inspired by ECW's hardcore style in the late 90s. So it's something kind of interesting to think about. But I do see what you're saying. ROH is kind of the modern day ECW, so to speak. I mean, of course, it's not hardcore. They're not doing ECW Extreme Rules matches every single night. But they're kind of the underdog company amongst WWE and TNA. So I kind of see what you're saying. But who would have fit the company style? Of course, Jericho, Benoit, Eddie, Dean Malenko, all those guys that were in the original ECW, I think would fit ROH perfectly, even more than they fit ECW. ECW had a lot of classic wrestlers, a lot of great wrestlers that eventually went on to be signed by WCW. So I think Benoit, Jericho, Eddie, Malenko, the list goes on and on. I think they would have fit ROH's style perfectly. Up next, at Butlert90 from Twitter, does Daniel Bryan realistically stand a chance of beating Cena? I think not. I'd love for it to be true, but I just can't see it. In reality, maybe. I don't see that happening. Of course, he has a bigger chance of defeating Cena than CM Punk would beating Brock Lesnar in a real-life street fight. But in terms of storyline, Daniel Bryan has a huge chance of defeating John Cena at SummerSlam for the WWE Championship. His momentum is off the charts. This guy's been getting amazing reactions in recent months. They might as well pull the trigger at SummerSlam on one of their biggest pay-per-views of the year by defeating the WWE's biggest star. Will he beat him clean? That remains to be seen. But I definitely see Daniel Bryan walking out with the WWE Championship, only for Randy Orton to cash in his Money in the Bank briefcase, become WWE Champion, and finally turn heel in the process. Of course, people will be pissed that Daniel Bryan lost the title in with 18 seconds, maybe make that kind of joke again. But it's for the better. And I mean, that's the point. Daniel Bryan is so over that Randy Orton turning on him would be perfect. So I think finally it finally turned Orton heel. It gets Daniel Bryan the championship for a brief period of time. He can always win it back later down the line. But I think Daniel Bryan has a very big chance of defeating Cena for the title at SummerSlam. And up next, our final question at 2000 Awesome. Which WWE crowd do you think is the worst? There's obviously a hell of a lot of them, but the first and foremost one that comes to my mind is Atlanta, Georgia. No offense to people that are in Atlanta, but WrestleMania 27, the next night, the Hell in a Cell pay-per-view from last year was just terrible. I mean, the event was pretty good. That we had Big Show and Sheamus fighting over the world title. We had Ryback and CM Punk in a Hell in a Cell match in the night's main event for the WWE Championship. It was a pretty solid event. The crowd killed it, though. They were dead for almost everything on that show. Atlanta, Georgia is just not a good town for WWE crowds. Of course, it was hot back in the day with WCW. I know Goldberg won his first WCW World Championship back there in the late 90s. But in this day and age, it's not a good crowd whatsoever. I would not recommend WWE going back there anytime soon. I believe they are going back there for some reason, maybe later this year, but I hope not. It was just such a bad crowd last year and at WrestleMania 27, which was also a sucky event. So they just don't have good luck when they go to Atlanta. So I would hope that they don't go back there anytime soon. But that wraps up this week's questions. Again, if you'd like to send in a question, make sure to like my Facebook page at Graham GSM Matthews and leave a comment on the wall for your question to be featured in the next video. Also, if you want to send it in via Twitter, follow me on Twitter at @SaveUS_GSM with the hashtag AskGSM with your question to be featured in the next video, which will be posted next Monday. Make sure to send in questions that can be answered. Like someone would have asked me last week, what are your predictions for the Money in the Bank pay-per-view? No one asked that, but I'm just saying as an example. I would have been able to answer that because I was doing the questionnaire on following Monday, so it already happened. But you see what I'm saying, though. So, yep, thanks for watching, guys. Really do appreciate it. Make sure to subscribe as well. This is GSM, signing out. Till next time, guys.